Hello and welcome.
Hello, welcome back to the show. We have Adrian Sutherland here with us today. Thank you so much for coming in, Adrian. I know you've been very busy. You got all kinds of stuff happening. You're playing the Tacaranto Music Festival at Harborfront Center.
That's right, yeah.
Maybe let's start off with that, because that's coming up tomorrow night.
Yeah, we've been down here for a little while now, and I've been working to get ready for that show. It's probably the second longest show I've done since the pandemic, so it required a little bit of work, to kind of bring my playing back up to where it was pre-pandemic.
Right. So during the pandemic, that was sort of a crazy time. It was like 2 years, pretty much. People, staying at home, taking precautions, and a lot of the artists that we've talked to, at least the ones on the show recently, they didn't really do a lot during the pandemic. But you seem to be always keeping busy. You even released a record at the end of 2021.
Yeah, that's right. I know. Just before the pandemic started, we had some projects that we were that were in the works for us. That we were planning to record an album. I had been beginning to just score my first TV series. So there was a lot, sort of hinging on all of that. And when we got hit with the pandemic, it really kind of just put a wrench in the wheel. So yeah, I didn't know what to do. Some of that stuff didn't quite work out. It fell through, and then some of the stuff we were able to kind of make a plan in order for me to continue working on some of the projects. So the first step was building a studio.
Right. And you built it in a shipping container, from what I saw in the news story. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
I had a 40-foot shipping container on my lot back home, and mostly used for storage. So I didn't have a lot of stuff in there. And
Right.
the idea kind of came in a discussion I was having with my manager, Rosanna Schick. And so the idea sort of came out of a discussion to, why don't we retrofit the sea container and turn that space into a studio? So that's what we did. We started making the plans. We costed everything out, and had a little bit of money in the budget to make it all work logistically. And you do anything in the north, the far north especially, remote flying communities, logistics is usually a big challenge. So, but we were able to make it all happen, and we had the budget in place to purchase all the materials we needed and cover the cost of flying it in. And then the build started, and from start to finish, it was about 10 days to get it all built.
Excellent. And that's like your own personal studio, or is it also available to the community, or are you doing other projects with community members?
Well, I have. It's been my space since we've had it. I haven't really opened it up or shared it with anyone. Although I've had a few people come in to look at the space. I had one guy come in who was interested in recording, and he played me all his original music. We listened to his stuff, and that's sort of the extent of that relationship.
Right.
But yeah, like the plan is to eventually open it up to have people come in, and maybe we can do some recording in there with locals or people on the coast, in neighboring communities, because it is a very musical place. A lot of musicians, a lot of guitar players, rock guys, and some fiddle players in the area. And I think a lot of them are always interested in getting into a studio to record their stuff, right? And hopefully someday I could, offer them a space to do that.
For sure, because to get to a commercial recording studio, you'd have to fly somewhere to some sort of city, major center, I would assume.
All my recording prior to recording in the studio has always been done in Toronto. We've come down here several times. We did 3 or 4 albums that we've done. You travel down,
right.
you put yourself in a hotel,
right.
The cover meals and all that. Extremely expensive,
right.
And what I think what a lot of people learned during the pandemic, especially ones that were recording and working from their own home studio spaces, was that in a lot of ways it was a lot more efficient and a lot more cost effective,
right.
Than traveling great distances to like you would have traditionally.
That's right.
And I honestly didn't know what to expect when we recorded the album. But when we heard the final mixes, it was quite remarkable. That we were able to achieve such a great right. album,
right?
The way we did, yeah.
Right. Because now it's more DIY. There's a lot more artists that are recording at home. Because now you can, if you have a laptop, you throw Pro Tools or Logic or GarageBand even, in a way you sort of go. And so how did you kind of get started in recording? Because I'm just guessing your age. We're probably similar aged. And when I was, a teen, first starting to record, there was no such thing as multi-track recording at home. Maybe you had a 4-track, or maybe you had 2, cassette decks, and you wired them together so you'd get, 4 tracks out of it.
Yeah.
What was your, first step into that larger world of recording?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you, I mean, I come from the days of, cassette recorders, and that's how I was recording all my song ideas very early on in my teens.
Right.
And then fast forward to probably, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. That's when the technology was really available for DAWs, digital audio workstations.
Right.
Of course, I had a friend of mine who I did a lot of music with earlier on. He was very, very good with the program. We used Cubase, actually.
Oh, Cubase. Okay.
Yeah, we used Cubase. Yeah. And I had no clue. I didn't know anything about the program, so he did all of that stuff.
Okay.
And I just did my demos, and we tracked right in my bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
At home. That's what we did for about, I don't know, 7.
I think we all started that way. We had, in our old place, a studio in the bedroom, too.
Yeah. Joshua... so he and I worked together on my early stuff, the demos, which actually some made onto the first album,
right.
Eventually in 2011. But that was my very first kind of taste with having a home studio, and then Josh eventually moved away, so I didn't always have access,
right.
To somebody who could track for me, and it's because it really is a skill, I think, and you have to develop it, and there's a learning curve.
For sure.
So then I was kind of forced to learn, all that stuff on my own, and I started to kind of work with Cubase and then GarageBand a little bit, and then I eventually got into Pro Tools, and I basically use Pro Tools just to capture all my ideas when I'm songwriting,
right?
Even colors and textures and different things that I just kind of hear. I try to experiment with, and then if I like it, I keep it, and I take those ideas to the studio when we record the album. So that's how I've been able to use my home studio, over the years. It's just really capturing all these different things that are going on in my head. Right.
So you're kind of doing more sonic sketches in your home studio, and then when you take it somewhere else to the studio, we'll say, then that's, I guess, where your ideas are kind of refined into the finished product.
Yeah.
And have you noticed your songwriting change over the years because the technology changes, or are you still writing songs back when you, like, in the same sort of way that when you still had a cassette deck?
No, I think my approach has changed slightly, and I've tried to kind of get away from, I guess, my normal pattern that I've always kind of used over the years, just to kind of break out of that a little bit to see if we can see if we can come up with anything better or different.
Right.
Like, so I've tried different things, but I've always tried to use the same approach when capturing the ideas. It's just even just having my iPhone or a digital recorder just open on the floor,
right,
and I would always try to just capture whatever ideas, because sometimes they come, and then if you don't grab them, and then you lose them.
That's right.
And it's just like,
and it's gone. That's right.
It's gone.
Exactly. So are you like starting off with chords and melody, or do you start off writing the lyrics first, or what's kind of your process?
I do a little bit of both. Sometimes I'll just write lyrics with no music, and then a lot of the times I will start off with chords and just start strumming, chords, whatever.
Right.
And then I kind of build around that. I'll start humming melodies, or I'll just sing anything out really and just anything that comes to mind. And then I start building the song around all of that.
Right.
And if I can, get some verse structures down, the choruses, are down, and it's pretty much a whole song right there.
Right.
And it's just a matter of developing the lyrics again from there, and then bringing the song to life. That's really been my approach. And also I do use keyboard as well. I'll get away from the guitar sometimes, because I find that when I'm stuck, especially on a particular song, I find it helps just to jump on the keyboard, because everything is there. You see everything.
It's more linear versus
more linear.
That's right.
And you
That's
just
right.
play around with the keys, and then quite often you can kind of push through, a mental block or a creative block. Just even just with jumping on the keys.
It forces your brain to think differently, right? Because it's different sort of, I guess, brain muscles used in playing a keyboard versus a guitar.
Yeah, almost like you're seeing it from through a different lens, I guess. I don't know if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, no, totally. Because on a guitar, it's like if you were to plot out all the notes, it would be like this mess. I mean, if you look at a guitar chord chart, that's like a mess of stuff. But a piano is very elegant. Yeah. Like it's a very sort of linear instrument, and then you kind of know different octaves and where you might be in the song that way. And you open up different sort of color and use different, arrangements for making your chords too.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned you were getting into writing for television. And what was the name of the show, if you want to give them a plug? I think we watched that show religiously. It's, what was it called?
Unsettled.
Unsettled, that's right, yes.
Yeah, that was the first TV series that I scored for, and it was a very interesting process. I mean, there was a lot of challenges, I think, mostly because of initially I was supposed to be doing all the scoring in the studio down in North Bay. But since the pandemic, we weren't able to leave and travel anywhere, so I had to get set up at home. This was before the studio. Well, we didn't have the studio built yet, but I still had a space I was working out of. But anyway, when we built it, we moved in, and then I quickly discovered that I was not set up like technology was just wasn't cooperating.
Okay,
and of course, being in the north, we're very, very underserviced. In a lot of ways, I think we're still living in the Stone Ages up there. So that was a very, very difficult process to go through, especially since I didn't have, a dedicated internet connection. So just downloading files, it took days and days.
Oh, I can imagine.
And then uploading days and days.
Right.
It was frustrating, but we finished it, and from what I understand, everything turned out really well, and I learned a lot from that whole process, and I'm really I work closely with Jennifer Podemski. She's the one who reached out to me, so her and I spent a lot of time, kind of working through some of the episodes, and it was overall it was a positive experience, and in the end I learned a lot of stuff from it. Right,
great. So that must be a totally different process than writing songs for say your record. When you're scoring for TV, I'll assume you get to see the scene, or at least a rough cut of it, and then are you to interpret that scene musically, or do they tell you what the script's about and then you kind of interpret it that way musically, or?
Yeah, so they'll send me the episode, and I basically just drop it into my session, and you can watch, and then you can open up your own tracks, whatever you want to. Right. I had about, I don't know, 12 tracks per each episode, maybe more.
Okay.
And I just started putting in a lot of pads.
Right.
That was kind of my first impulse, I guess.
Sure.
To add in a lot of the, those nice, really ambient type pads. And of course, acoustic guitar wasn't, something I felt like it definitely needed. And then there was a lot of very spiritual scenes on some of the episodes too, and I think that required, some more traditional spiritual kind of sounds, you know what I mean?
Sure,
different things
right.
that, so I had like drums and rattles and bells, and I'm, I've also sang for many years at powwows, so I had that kind of a, that experience to draw on. But yeah, it was really tough, in the beginning. I had no clue what I was doing, and they just basically gave me the stuff and said, yeah, here you go. And then the first 2 or 3 episodes, they just kind of let me do whatever, and then we had all the network people come back and just give me all the feedback,
right? And
then from there I had to go back and rework everything,
right?
So I think the first one wasn't such a great, like everything's not where it's supposed to be, that everything just feels kind of awkward, that kind of thing. I was like, oh no. So I was freaking out a little bit, and then just so they gave me some advice. I got on the phone with Jennifer, and then connected with a couple of other composers, and just kind of tried to pick their brain really quick, and then I went back and I basically redid those things, and then the response I got back from them was like whoa, this is really good. Like, you just, how the hell did you come up with all this stuff? And going from the last thing you did to this, like, it's just a quick turnaround. So I was really relieved to be able to do that. And it was just kind of that was the approach we took for each episode, and we just kind of focused on one episode at a time until we finished. I gave them like hundreds of stems, like,
okay,
so they had a lot like to draw from, and then whatever they wanted to use and stuff, where they could place and plug in place, yeah, I've had a few people reach out to me and say that, I saw your name come up, and we were watching this TV series on TV called Untitled, and we're pretty sure we saw your name come up. And I said, yeah, I was, I scored that, and so it was pretty challenging, but at the same time, like, it was a very positive and a good learning experience for me. And I'm not even sure if I'll ever do it again. Maybe.
That was my next question. When's the next project?
Well, there's been some opportunities that have come my way. Like, I've actually been submitting samples to, like, I know, DreamWorks Animation. There's just a few other ones. There was another one from Marvel that I had an opportunity to submit more samples to. Okay. But I just wasn't in a position, and I think the timing was just not right. Right. So the opportunities are there for sure. Yes. And whether or not I want to pursue that is still kind of like, I don't know. But if the right opportunity comes, I think it's right. I think I would probably go for it.
Because it seems like you're a modern Renaissance man. You're a man of many talents. I was reading you were a master corporal for the Canadian Rangers. Is that correct? Yeah. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I first joined the Rangers when I was 18. That was like, for 20 something years ago, and I spent a little time with them. I did all my basic training, and spent about 5 years, and then they released me for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I was discharged from the service, and then they I did a lot of like search and rescue work because of my background. I worked as a medic for many, many years. That was my first career. So I did a lot of search and rescue stuff for the community.
Right.
In those days, the community had their own search and rescue teams, and then I was a part of that, like because of my medical background. So I did a lot of that stuff. I went out in storms. I went out in the middle of the night.
Oh wow.
All sorts of stuff like that. And then the Ranger program was always there, and was always ready to support the community. However, the community never really, I guess, called on them like they probably should have. But anyway, over the years they bugged me to come back. After kicking me out.
Okay.
And I was just like, nah.
No way.
They kept bugging me. They kept asking me over and over, come back. And I think for at least a decade, and I finally gave in maybe about 5-6 years ago and said, all right, I'll sign up again. And they made me their second in command of the patrol group in the community, their master corporal. I haven't been that active just because I've been so busy.
Right.
But there's another master corporal there who's really stepped in for the whole patrol group there in the community and really takes on a lot of that work. But it's something I really want to make time for. I think it's an important role to play, especially up there. And when there's certain threats like flooding or search and rescue and stuff like that. Right. I think it's important for. You basically step up and you serve your community, and and you don't think twice about it.
Right.
Especially when there are vulnerable people like women, children, or even elderly that need to be moved,
right,
and evacuated during flood threats. So, and I've done all sorts of stuff, even with youth. We've taken some youth out, and we've done a lot of activity out in the land with them. So that's something I'm always very passionate about. Have been able to really do a lot of it since the pandemic hit, and things are kind of slowly just coming back online up there. So maybe there'll be some more trips, that are upcoming.
So you're very actively involved in your community, helping out any sort of way you can. So what if, for example, you bought a lottery ticket tonight and you won $70 million? Would you reinvest any of that back in the community? Is there a big project you want to do that you can't do right now? You just don't have the resources, or maybe the team? Is there some sort of project you have in mind that you'd like to have for the community?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of things I would do. If it was $70 million, I would develop aviation services that actually meet the needs of the people up there. Right. And not, like the companies that are just gouging and taking, from people who are already basically are living in poverty, and the past couple of years has really just exacerbated all of that when the feds were, having these huge bailouts for all these companies, especially the airlines.
That's right. Yeah.
But we're getting, still getting gouged by the same airlines, and the consumers or the people that really need it were actually at their worst.
That's right.
We were at our, basically at our knees, and it was just like, it seemed like everybody who didn't really need it seemed to do really well, during the pandemic, and all the companies, the big companies, received all the bailouts, but all these little businesses and all the little people and all the people that really actually need the support were basically just forgotten about. And so it really exposed a lot of things, especially in the north, and it's actually exacerbated a lot of the issues we have out there, and it still hasn't come back. We're still in a place of really difficulty, but aviation, marine transportation services, like those are the kind of things I would look at developing partnerships with the government and other people that are in the industry. It's like I said, it's very underserviced, underdeveloped. I would look at bringing in what's the farming they used to grow water when they grow their
hydroponics.
Right. Yeah, I would bring those types of opportunities in. and I would develop land-based programs for our people, especially our young people. Those are the kind of things I would do. I'd probably build a big recreational center for the community,
right?
That I would probably have control over, and
Sure.
making sure that the place is running and serving the people that really need it the most. So those are some of the things I would probably do.
Well, those are a lot of good things. Pull out the briefcase with the $70 million. So what's the size of the community? Attawapiskat, like how many people live there, and the surrounding, I guess.
I think the whole Mushkegowuk region. I think James Bay region, where I am, is about 10,000 residents.
Okay.
Attawapiskat is 2,700. That's the number I seem to kind of hear quite a bit on reserve. I think the total of off reserve is around 6,000-7,000. I think is the total number of
right.
reserve members on and off. So it's one of the larger communities on the coast. Moose Factory being the largest, and then I think Attawapiskat might be the second, and then Saskatchewan, and then Fort Albany. And then you have a couple of communities on the Hudson Bay coast, like Pewanik, and the Fort Severn community as well.
Right.
Yeah, so it's fairly large. It's a fairly hopping little community.
Okay.
Yeah.
And do a lot of community members leave to go to school or employment and then come back, or they're gone for good?
There's a big migration out of the community.
Oh, okay.
I think for a number of reasons. One, there's no housing available for most people, so it's people don't really have much of a choice. Some of the people that have left for school don't end up coming back. Some of them have left to get worked in mining, because we had Ontario's first diamond mine in our backyard, which is in their closure phase now. But most of the people that work there have actually left.
Okay.
So we have about 100 members that were employed there. Each members they have an average family size of 5, so that's 500 members.
Okay.
That left as a direct result of
right.
employment with the mine, and never came back. So and they're all living in the south at different places. So yeah, I think there's a big migration, like leaving.
Right.
And it's a tough place to live. Like, I'll be honest, there's some really difficult. We're a community in trouble, but at the same time, there are still a lot of good things about the community and the area, especially the location.
Right.
It's such a beautiful area to live, and but at the same time, it's a place that's in trouble.
Sure. And are there agencies, advocacy groups trying to help, even the government? Has there been measures to try to help out the community in any meaningful way, or?
Well, I think there has been several organizations and agencies that have tried to come in and help and assist and over the years. But I think, from what I understand, I think the community hasn't really responded to those calls for people to come in and actually help.
Right.
And they just basically haven't showed up in the community, especially our leaders.
I see. Okay.
Our leaders, yeah, and that's what I see anyway.
Right.
And which is too bad, because there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. There was a window for those opportunities. There were so many. Like there were funding opportunities. There were opportunities for hydroponics, camps for our youth that were proposed to be built, all just adjacent to the community. There's been a lot of queries and a lot of agencies and organizations coming in and reaching out to our community to try to help and assist, but I think they get turned away a lot. 90% of the time they get turned away. So,
and would you be interested in a leadership role down the road?
Well,
Is this where you announce your candidacy? I'm running for prime minister.
I'm running for, interesting. You asked the question. I get asked that a lot, and it's an election year at home, so of course I have a few people that are now asking if I would run for chief.
Right.
I've thought about it seriously. Like I've thought about it a lot over the years.
It's got a nice ring to it, Chief Sutherland. That's got a beautiful ring to it.
Well, my response has always been like, I don't want to get skinned alive. Like,
sure,
I'll get skinned alive, and it's a tough place, for someone like me, especially my political views. I think are
okay.
Probably a lot different than most people, and if I see something that's not right, I just go right at it and
sure
and try to correct it,
Right.
But I think it's also there. Like I said, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of good people there, and I think they're trying to make a difference. But when you look at our community, we're a remote, far north community. Excuse me. That lacks capacity, and I think one of our biggest problems is poor governance in the community.
Right.
And when you don't have a good, strong governance structure in place, you cannot build strong institutes.
Right.
You can't foster a healthy environment for business growth.
Right.
Everything just suffers. Everyone suffers. It has a trickle down effect, and it just affects everything.
Absolutely.
In the community. And it's some of the social problems are I would describe as very complex.
Okay.
It's to unravel those social problems. It's very difficult. There's so many layers. You have to start peeling back one by one.
Right.
And quite often what happens in that situation is a lot of the social problems get ignored because people are just not equipped to deal with them. They don't have the right tools.
Right.
You can't solve your your emotional or social problems. What's the term I was looking for? Emotionally,
right?
By yelling and getting, you have to come at it with a plan, a strategy, and then that requires, when you have a housing shortage and there's no houses, and you have a housing manager or a housing authority, and you haven't seen any new houses go up for over a decade or whatever, there's something wrong.
Right.
It's not. It's something that's not moving, and that's the time you need to go and kick that thing, give it a good kick.
Right.
And rattle. Just give it a good rattle, and then you pick something up from there. People. Do get upset. When that happens, but at least once you kick that and everything splatters, you pick something up from the pile, and then you hopefully start building again from that, like a platform to start building on, and then get it moving, But I don't know. I'm just ranting on. I don't know if I'm making sense.
That's all right. He'll announce his candidacy soon. Don't worry, people. We'll have an exclusive. So often with your career in music, there's always a lot of travel, and you always have to leave home. Does it always feel strange leaving home, or are you looking forward to discovering new places and meeting new people?
Well, it's a little bit of both. I absolutely hate leaving home, especially leaving my wife and my kids and my grandkids. That's the hardest part for me, is leaving behind the people I love and care deeply about.
Right.
And it's nice to see places that you've never been to, and to meet people in those places that are interesting, or especially other artists that are kind of out there doing different things, and it's nice to kind of come across each other's path, and connect, at different levels. So I like that part of it. But when I'm done, I'm always, ready to get home as quick as I can.
Right.
And for, my heart to be full again,
Right, absolutely. We always look forward to going back home as well. Like whenever we start landing, or when you're circling around Pearson Airport, Toronto, like, oh, there's our house down there. It's gonna be good to be back home. So your grandfather was as well.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Five grandkids. Our newest member is he's 4 months now.
Okay.
Yeah, little baby Drew.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. And what's it like being a grandpa?
Well,
Do you spoil the kids, I guess?
I never used to have this much gray hair.
Okay. It comes with the job, I think.
Comes with the job. You know what? It's a mixed blessing, because it really, for me as a father, I think it just brings more layers of responsibilities, But like I said, it's a mixed blessing. The love you have for your grandchildren is nothing. Like it's different. It's very different, and there's never like a dull moment with those.
That's right.
Yeah.
Are any of them showing any musical aptitude or ability yet, or are they into music, or they want to become investment bankers?
Well, the boy that we've had since he was the newborn, Ezra, he's 4 now. He's singing, starting to sing, and
Great.
he loves to dance, and he doesn't seem shy about it, so that's good. We're going to try to see if we can support him and continue hopefully he continues the singing and the dancing publicly and doesn't grow out of it. So
Right.
Yeah.
You never know. By age 14, he might want to go work on Bay Street, become a day trader.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there could be worse things.
Yeah.
So what's, I guess, next on the horizon for Adrian Sutherland? New record, more scoring. You're also very heavily into hockey. You're going to try for the NHL, or what are your plans?
Well, yeah, I still think I'm still chasing the dream for one day making my NHL debut.
Okay.
So I've been in training for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
I think I'm almost ready.
Great.
For a tryout somewhere. No, but for sure, musically, I would like to put out an album, another solo album next year. So that's kind of in the works, and we're just starting to kind of discuss that with my manager. And those are some of the things I want to be involved with in the next little while. I'm working on the books as well in the next little while.
That's right. I was reading you're also a writer.
Yeah, and that's coming along okay. I mean, it's a different challenge. It's unlike anything I've done before.
Right.
So I'm just really, again, it's
and that's not anything like songwriting at all. Writing a book.
No, the songwriting is songwriting is like you're trying to say as much
you can with a little bit amount of words. That's right. Yeah.
A little bit amount of words as possible. But in writing, it's like the complete opposite.
That's right. You got to describe everything.
You got to describe everything in so much detail.
As I sat on the couch, I felt the leather pressed against my skin. Right? See, I'm not a writer.
So that's what I'm learning now, is just how to kind of spread out the themes a bit more and get into all the nitty gritty details and stuff. So it's so far, I mean, it's been an interesting the stories that are in there, and I think it's going to be, well, coming from me doesn't probably mean a lot, but I think it's going to be an incredible book for for people to read.
And when's it due out? Any sort of tentative release dates?
Well, it was due in March 2023, but we're going to miss that target.
Okay.
We're gonna go beyond that. But it's coming.
Okay. And do you have a title for the book yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
No, not yet.
Okay. Because some people have a title for the book like before they even write the book, and then other people, it comes at the end. They're like, "Oh, this is about this."
We did talk about a title, but I can't remember what it was. It was about a month ago. I just can't remember what it was. It's gone.
Right. And then from writing books, do you think you might even get into writing scripts? I mean, now that you've scored, a TV show, and you've got the writing background, and you're also a storyteller through song, it seems like the next logical step would be script writing, right? Netflix, or whoever's out there, Disney, whoever's watching. It's right.
I've thought about that a lot, because there's such a rich, an untapped market, especially in the indigenous Aboriginal lore, all the legends and the stories, and some of them are legends and some of them are true, and there's just so many different things like I grew up hearing, and the spirituality. I mean, it's just so much. There's just so much depth there, the depth of culture and I mean, you could imagine the kind of scripts you could write just based on characters that I heard about growing up, and and develop an entire, whether it's a series or a movie out of, because our stories haven't been told.
No,
our stories we haven't had really that chance to really be given that space to tell those stories, and I think we're just starting to see that now. And I mean, if someday I could write a script, and thought about it, actually. I don't think I've ever said it out loud. This is the first time.
Well, it's on camera now.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So you could add Juno nominated, and then Oscar nominated, and then all these other things. And then maybe Tony Award nominated. You have to write a musical.
Yeah.
And then dance in it, I think. I don't know what the rules are to write for the Tony Awards. Yeah. So we're coming up in the last 5 minutes of the show. And usually I ask people, what sort of advice would they give to someone who's just starting out? They want to be a musician. Say it's someone back home. A teenager, they picked up the guitar, they learned some chords, they want to write songs, and then they want to pursue what you do. Mm-hmm. What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, I guess the first thing I would tell them is to, if you're gonna be writing songs, develop your craft. Work on it, develop that craft, and become the best writer you can be. And it's okay to write a lot of crappy songs.
Sure.
Because that's part of it.
That's right. I read a ton of crappy songs.
I've written a bunch of corny, crappy songs. Like, man, if people heard those songs, they would just laugh. But that's part of it. It's part of developing the craft and learning. And I think once you have developed that craft to a certain to a certain extent, get your songs together and, get out and record some stuff if you can. Mm-hmm. And you want to have a good solid team in place too. You want to be able to build your team, the people that are going to help open doors for you. Mm-hmm. So it really is, I think that's one of the biggest parts, is to having people that support your music.
Right.
And support what you do, and are willing to, to work extremely hard for you, to take, to open down those doors, to even bang on those doors. And it's, it's a grind, honestly, it's a grind. We know artists love to jump up, musicians love to jump up on stage and play for that 1 hour or whatever, they love it. That's what they live and breathe, is to get up there and do that. But everything leading up to that, it's a lot of work. Mm-hmm. And it's a grind. It can be a grind. You really have to ask yourself if you're ready for that. And in a lot of ways, you got to become obsessed, to really take a run at it.
Because I find some people just kind of want it to happen. They don't want to put in the work. It's kind of like getting in shape. You got to lift the weights, regularly. Otherwise, you don't get in shape. If you want to lift them once a month, well, nothing's going to happen. And the same goes for, I guess songwriting and kind of honing your craft. Is you kind of have to do it on a regular basis. Yeah. And like you said, it's good to have people that can support you, a team, because like you said, it is a grind. You're pushing a boulder up that hill for a while, and sometimes forever. It's
it's quite the uphill battle, and you know, it's just, if you're an artist, you're up against thousands of other artists in Canada alone.
That's right.
So, and they're all competing for the same thing, which is that spotlight, you know, those venue spots, those record deals, or, you know, you name it, those radio programmers. And, and, you know, there's everybody that, you know, are competing for that. Like, so it's a tough industry to break into, and, but it's possible with, you know, the right team and the right amount of work ethic, you know, and then to build your career and build your brand, and eventually arrive, you know.
That's right. And I think that's the key word that you just said, is to build your career. Yeah. Whereas a lot of people, they are focusing on being famous rather than building their career. Yeah. You can't really make a career out of being famous. Well, I guess unless you're one of the Kardashians or something, sure. But otherwise, if you have a solid career, you have a solid fan base, then you have music always coming out to the community, and you'll always have people supporting you. And hopefully that turns into a living. Yeah. Even if it's a modest living. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I try to stay really true to is who I am. And you know, I try not to like do things that were not natural or didn't feel natural, or that were very uncomfortable. Like, you know, I wouldn't run around and, you know, like, you know, topless on stage or whatever, just crazy things like that. Or
I saw the design for your next stage outfit. It was like gold lame pants and a mesh shirt, I think.
Yeah, I just, you know, like I always just try to stick to, you know, what I stand for, and I really, it hasn't always been easy, because not everybody, you know, is going to get behind you, and you're up as an Indigenous artist. You're up against a lot of, I think, barriers. You know, there are a lot of barriers out there that you have to overcome. So especially because we're at such a disadvantage too. Right. You know, than most Canadians. You know, most Canadians take advantage of the opportunities and the luxuries they enjoy every day. That's right. But as an Indigenous person, you know, you're really at a huge disadvantage, and you really have to work. It's like double the workload, you know. Right. Yeah.
But it seems like things in the Indigenous music industry has been getting better over the last few years. We have now various, you know, awards and celebrations in the Indigenous Music Summit, and a bunch of other sort of opportunities. Sirius XM has the Indigenous Peoples Music Channel. So it seems like there's this new renaissance, even in film. There's a lot of more, you know, Indigenous-owned production companies shooting their own stories instead of, you know, some Hollywood or big production company. So it feels like it's slowly getting better, but there's definitely, yes, lots of work that has to be done. That's why you need that $70 million.
Yeah, you need the $7 million. Yeah,
that's right.
I think, yeah, you're right. There's been a lot of optimism I've seen in even the last like decade. You know, that's how long I've been at it, and you know, professionally, and I have seen a lot of change. You know, we're starting to see, you know, the minds and hearts of people open up, especially the more we kind of put ourselves out there, and you know, and share our stories and share our struggles and our triumphs as well. You know? That's right. And I think people are a lot more receptive and a lot more, you know, willing to support and to create those spaces for Indigenous artists, whether it's in film or, you know, TV and music, or abstract art. You name it. It's, the spaces are slowly growing and being made available, and I think you know, it's certainly a step in the right direction. Yeah, it's for me, coming where I come from. Yes, I'm an Indigenous artist, but I always I feel like I'm an outsider. You know, I've always felt like that. Sure, which is not necessarily a bad thing. You know, but I just, because, you know, where I come from, and and being out on the land, growing up speaking Cree only, and then coming into, like, even now today, it feels very unnatural for me sometimes to be on the stage,
Okay.
and that could be a difficult thing to grapple with, but it's I'm not saying I'm necessarily different than other Indigenous artists, but I just come from a different background, I guess, and that sometimes makes me feel like I'm sort of like an outsider.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes we can all kind of feel like outsiders because we're artists and we're working in different sort of cognitive realms, and sometimes our ideas are beautiful, wonderful, and strange all at the same time.
Yeah, well put. Yeah.
Great. Well, really appreciated you coming down and being on the show. And we're going to see your show, the Takaranto Music Festival. That's at Harborfront Center. Starts at 8. Doors at 8. Okay. Laura, the producer, is nodding. It's 7:30 the open. Okay. You could check. We'll post the link on the website. Okay. Great. Thanks so much for coming down, and thank you for watching and listening.
Hello, I'm Adrian Sutherland, and I'm going to perform a song called Magic Hits from my debut solo album, When the Magic Hits. This song for me is about you work towards something, and when you finally realize on these goals, it truly feels like magic. Took me by surprise, kinda blew up on my mind. Sometimes things get rough, sometimes tough. There must be more to life than this. Standing on the sidelines, waiting for the highlights, yeah. There must be more to life than this. Praying for the weekend, waiting till the magic hits. Took a walk outside, everything seemed fine. Kinda looked like the skies. I could see it in your eyes. Sometimes things get tight. Outside, there must be more to life than this. Standing on sidelines, waiting for the highlights, yeah. There must be more to life than this. Praying for the weekend, waiting till the magic hits.
Thank you so much, Adrian.
My pleasure.